A confined space is an enclosed or partially enclosed space that is at atmospheric pressure during occupancy and is not intended or designed primarily as a place of work, and A, is liable at any time to have an atmosphere which contains potentially harmful contaminants, to be oxygen enriched or deficient, to cause engulfment, or B, could have restricted means of entry and exit. Examples of confined spaces include storage tanks or vessels, open top spaces such as pits or shafts and ducts. Hazards associated with confined space work include a lack of oxygen, build-up of fumes, temperature extremes, fire, noise, and manual handling. An accredited course or equivalent training must be completed before entering a confined space. You must also be assessed as competent before you perform any work in a confined space. If you think you may be going to work in a confined space, check requirements with your supervisor. You must not perform any confined space work without a correct and valid work permit. If working on a client site, you may be required to comply with their permit system. You are responsible to ensure that you clearly understand the hazards and comply with all safe work procedures when working in a confined space. Certain atmospheric testing, specific ventilation systems, or other precautions such as safety lines may also be required. You will also need to log on or sign a register to record when you enter and exit the confined space. Never work alone. Never enter a confined space without a sentry or standby person at the point of entry and exit at all times. Working at heights. If you fall from a height, it can cause serious injury or death. Working at heights is access, egress, ascending, descending, or working in any position where a person or object can fall from, into, or through anything from one level to another. If there is a risk you could fall, it is essential you take steps to either remove the risk or prevent injury in the event of a fall. If there is a risk of tools or equipment falling from a height, such as dropped objects, you must secure the items to prevent them from falling. Fall protection controls, including permits, are required within 2 meters of an unprotected edge, on fragile surfaces, for material that can potentially collapse, on slippery surfaces, or those with an incline greater than 15 degrees. Always consider other ways to do the job if you are at risk of falling from height. For example, use an elevated work platform, scaffold, or fall protection where you are at risk of sustaining an injury from a fall. Many factors can increase your risk of a fall, such as weather conditions, poor lighting, poor housekeeping, fatigue, or a momentary loss of concentration. When working at height, always have 3 points of contact if you are climbing a ladder. Use lanyards on tools or use containers to prevent them from falling. Use exclusion zones, signage, and barricading. Obtain the required permits for work. Use fall-resistant and arrest devices to prevent or mitigate injury. An accredited course or equivalent training must be completed prior to working at height and using fall protection equipment. You must not work from heights alone. Remember to perform a pre-start inspection of all fall protection equipment and use it correctly. Ladders. Ladders may be used to get to and from an elevated work area. They must not be used as a work platform. Where work has to be performed at height, a work platform, such as scaffolding, must be used. Only one person is allowed on a ladder at any one time. Inspect ladders prior to use. Make sure the feet of the ladder are not worn to prevent slippage. Position the ladder so it has a firm footing and make sure it is secured. The distance between the ladder base and supporting structure should be about 1 metre for every 4 metres of ladder height. When a ladder is used to access a platform or roof, the ladder must extend 1 metre above the platform or roof level and must be secured. Elevating work platforms. You must have a nationally recognised certification and be competency assessed before operating an elevated work platform, or EWP. Operators and passengers in an EWP must complete training and a competency assessment for working at heights prior to working in an EWP. Wear a securely anchored safety harness and not leave the work platform when in use. Prepare the work area by setting up appropriate barricading and signage. Make sure the ground is level, a working flashing amber light is fitted, and conduct your pre-start check. A spotter must be in place for all work involving an elevated work platform. Spotters must be trained and competent for the task they are to perform and hold a nationally recognised certificate. Don't forget to keep all inspection records and operators' manuals up to date. Scaffolding. All scaffolding, including mobile and quick-stage scaffold, must be erected and disassembled by a person holding a nationally recognised certification and who is competent for scaffold erection and relevant to the type being constructed. All scaffolding is to be erected in accordance with Australian standards and Monadelphous or client-specific requirements. Unless working under an alternative client-specified tagging system, the SCAF tag system shall be used for all Monadelphous erected scaffolds. Each scaffold structure will be tagged in a prominent position at every access to the scaffold with a durable tag. Crane safety. Crane operators are not only responsible for their own safety, but are also responsible for the safety of all others in the vicinity of the crane. You must have a nationally recognised qualification suitable for the size and type of crane that you are going to operate. You must also demonstrate competence in the operation of the specific crane model and be familiar with that crane's safety systems. Before commencing work, you must carry out the pre-start checks as detailed in the crane logbook. If you find any defects, fill out a maintenance request order and give it to your supervisor for action. If the crane is unsafe to use, you must place the appropriate out-of-service tag on the controls. During a lift, you must ensure you are not under a suspended load at any time. Barricading and exclusion zones must be established to prevent unauthorised access to the slew area. The load must be lashed or restrained with taglines to prevent swinging of the load. Any person found to be willfully misusing a crane will be subject to Monadelphous disciplinary process. This may include suspension or dismissal. Lifting and slinging. Only a certified dogman or rigger is approved to sling or direct loads using a mobile crane. You must also complete a competence assessment prior to commencing lifting or rigging activities. Only one person should operate chain blocks. If it takes two people, then the block is overloaded. Process lines or handrails are not to be used as an anchor for rigging equipment. All lifting and slinging equipment must be used in accordance with manufacturer's guidelines and kept in a designated storage area to prevent damage or corrosion. Chains and chain slings must be inspected for stretching, hook deformation, nicks, bent links, cracks, elongation and excessive wear. Flexible steel wire rope slings must be kink-free and have no protruding wire ends, excessive wear or corrosion. Fibre or web slings must be checked for cuts, tears, stains, abrasions, discoloration and hard spots. All lifting and slinging equipment must be inspected prior to use and have the appropriate inspection tags attached. Damaged lifting equipment must be tagged out of service and repaired or replaced.